Hi, everyone who's tuning in to our very first podcast. I decided that I wanted to start a podcast because there are some topics that I just like to chat about that I don't feel fit with our normal YouTube format. So I thought that I would start a podcast, and we will have a section on our YouTube channel that is specifically for the podcast. But this way it can also be listened to if you're working out or in the car. We appreciate you tuning in. I am using some new equipment today that I got for Christmas. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can see I have a new light shining off my glasses. It's not a ring light, but it's Bellevue. And I will put a link to the light in the description of this podcast and video. I also have a new microphone that I got for Christmas as well. It's a Fifine brand, and it seems to be a really good microphone, and based on the reviews I've seen are really good. My only concern is that it took a good hour and a half for my computer to recognize it, and I'm not sure how all of a sudden it did, but it's finally recognized it. So I'm just glad that everything is working and that I can do this first podcast. So today I wanted to take some time to do a podcast about what's been going on with me, because if you follow our YouTube channel, which if you don't, I will put our YouTube channel link in the description of this podcast, and I will also put the link of the podcast in the description of the YouTube video. I have not been posting anything lately because I have been going through some health issues, and I thought that this might be a good topic to start because one of these has been a big part of my life for over a decade, and one is new and primarily the reason I haven't been doing anything lately. I want to start out by talking about my chronic condition, which I am currently diagnosed with having fibromyalgia. If you're not familiar with fibromyalgia, it is a condition where you get a heightened sense of pain. Your nerves send waves to your brain to tell you that you're in pain, even if it's something that's very minimal. I've dealt with it for over a decade, even before I was pregnant with Talon, who's 9 now. And I feel like a big part of it is because I'm not as physically active as I should be. Part of it is because I don't eat as healthy as I should be. But there have been times, even when I have switched my diet and exercise, where I still would have flares of fibromyalgia, which would put me out for anywhere from like a few days to a few weeks. And I've just felt like I've seen so much of my life pass me by without feeling functional. And when you have 3 kids at home, you have a lot to keep up with. And I just feel like I've missed out on so much to do with the kids. One thing is that I didn't want to be on a medication, on something that would need to be lifelong. And I think that was one of my biggest mistakes in the past, because a lot of these medications have gone through trials and have been proven to work in the capacity that they say that they are. One thing is that rheumatologists can be hard to get into, and that's who I was seeing for the fibromyalgia. And it can take months to get in sometimes. So more recently in December, I went to the Illinois Joint and Pain Institute. I was thinking maybe it was something to do with my spine and that it was causing pressure on my nerves, which was causing all over body pain. But he had suggested to start with taking Cymbalta, or a generic Cymbalta, because that, although it is a psychotropic medication, it has proven to work in fibromyalgia patients. And I was hesitant, but I figured I'll start there because I'm tired of being tired and in pain. And when you get to that point, you do decide that you're willing to try whatever you can. So I started on Cymbalta the day after my appointment, once I got it filled. And I feel like even that next day, I felt different. I felt better, even though it can take a few weeks for the medication to actually get into your system and to actually prove an effect. But that first day made me hopeful. And I will say that since then, I have been progressing every day. I did forget to take it. I take 30 milligrams twice a day. So once in the morning, once in the evening. And there was a day that I hadn't gotten my weekly medications put out. And I did have a flare come up. But the good thing about getting right back on it is it didn't take as much time to reassimilate into my body. That medication proved to be very important towards my recovery. And even though I do still have my tired days, which might be more related to the fact that I'm up until 2 a.m. watching Grey's Anatomy, which, side note, I started binging on December 7th, and I'm halfway through season 12 right now. So Grey's Anatomy is addicting, and I even got Kevin addicted into it too. I feel like even though I wake up tired, once I'm up, I usually have more energy during the day. Fibromyalgia is probably still going to be a lifelong issue for me, but I feel that the Cymbalta and the fact that I have been eating better lately and exercising, which I will also talk about in a different podcast, has helped to improve my overall health and my overall pain. Everyone is different, and everyone's journey with a chronic condition is going to be different. I would only suggest to not be closed-minded towards any of the options that you're given. It's not difficult to stop a medication if it starts having negative effects, as long as you aren't going into it knowing that you have a allergy or an issue with a certain medication. Your doctor should know what you can and can't handle, and you will know what you can and can't handle. But for the fact that I was so against any type of psychotropic medications for so long, I feel silly to have missed out on this opportunity to feel good and be productive and be present. One of my more recent health issues has come up is a rapid heart rate. And I am unsure where this actually came from. It started around beginning to mid-December. I remember we would be sitting and watching a movie, and all of a sudden I would feel like I'm having a panic attack, which I have gotten those in the past, and I am on Prozac for that, which I will definitely go into that in another podcast as well. However, this was something different because I'd be sitting and watching a movie very relaxed, just family time around Christmas, and all of a sudden my chest would get tight. I would feel heavy when I was breathing. And I will say I didn't think about it at first, but I did start to think towards the beginning of January, what if it's COVID? I would like to let you know that I have been tested for COVID multiple times. I've been tested for antibodies because I have donated blood, and I have not had any positive COVID tests. I have not had any positive antibodies. So this rapid heart rate, the reason that it was really brought to my attention, which it took me a while to realize, I went in to donate blood on January 9th. And when he was doing the exam to make sure I was healthy to actually donate the blood, he noticed that my resting heart rate was 96. And he asked if I had been running around all day. And the only thing I had done that day was to go to donate blood. So knowing that my resting heart rate was 96, I took to reviewing my Fitbit heart rate history. And it indicated that even mid-December, I think I put it back on the 17th of December, I started having an increase in my my resting heart rate. Towards Christmas time, it was in the upper 90s, lower hundreds as a resting heart rate. And I started wearing it more in January, and I noticed that even walking around the kitchen or going up the stairs could elevate my heart rate to 120 to 130, and even one time got to 135. And I felt like that probably wasn't good since I wasn't working out. And when I did start to work out, I was keeping track of my heart rate during exercise, and it did get up to 145. I don't know if that's normal for when you are pushing yourself, but I know that the healthier you are and the more that you are able to exercise, the lower your heart rate is supposed to go. So I do have a ways to go with that. I went to see a cardiologist last week, and he believes that it is sinus tachycardia, which just means that it's comparing hardware and software. So the sinus tachycardia would be software issues. Nothing wrong with my actual heart, just upon exercise and movements, I have more of a rapid heart rate. This is actually a better diagnosis because it should resolve with me becoming healthier. I went for a COVID test today because I'm supposed to go back for a stress test on Tuesday. So I will be providing an update during our next podcast with how that went, along with some other health updates and bringing information to you. But for now, I am just continually monitoring my heart rate to make sure that I don't get too elevated or that I don't feel like I'm going to pass out, because I did right after I donated blood, but that did resolve after a few days. So I think that the donation of blood probably wasn't a good time for me to donate blood. Now I am eating better. I'm counting my calories, making sure I get a lot of healthy fats and protein and fiber, trying to cut down on carbs and keep to natural sugars, and just working out. And I have lost between 5 and 10 pounds since I started this. So that's partially why I've been absent from YouTube recently, because I have been trying to focus on me to get me healthy so that I can get back into YouTubing and being there for my family and for household chores and for our viewers. I just wanted to thank everyone for their patience while I am on this journey, and I wanted to provide this update. And if you have any questions or any bits of advice or just want to weigh in, feel free to comment on this video or podcast. I would appreciate hearing if you need support or if you have support for me or anything that we can maybe look into together. That would be fantastic. It's always good to have a support system around. So I want to take this time to thank you for tuning in to our very first podcast. I plan to have more coming, so stay tuned, and we'll talk to you at the next Meyer Marker.